In this video, we will talk about the deadliest battles of all time, war on an epic scale, so make sure to watch the full video. Wars have shaped the course of human history, and some battles have stood out as the deadliest and most devastating ever fought. These epic conflicts resulted in staggering casualties, changed the fate of nations, and redefined military strategy. From brutal trench warfare in World War I to massive tank battles on the Eastern Front, these clashes pushed armies to their limits. Some battles ended empires, while others marked turning points in global conflicts. The scale of destruction, the suffering of soldiers and civilians, and the long-term consequences make these battles some of the most tragic and impactful in history. 1. The Battle of Stalingrad, 1942 to 1943. The turning point of World War II. The Battle of Stalingrad was one of the deadliest and most brutal battles in history, marking a turning point in World War II. Lasting over 5 months, this battle saw relentless urban combat, where every street, building, and ruin became a battleground. The Soviet Red Army, despite suffering massive casualties, managed to encircle and trap the German Sixth Army, cutting off their supplies. Starvation, brutal winter conditions, and relentless Soviet counterattacks led to the surrender of over 90,000 German soldiers. With an estimated 2 million casualties, Stalingrad not only broke Hitler's eastern ambitions but also shifted the momentum of the war. 2. The Battle of Verdun, 1916. The longest battle of World War I. The Battle of Verdun was a drawn-out nightmare that became one of the bloodiest conflicts of World War I, lasting nearly a year. This battle was a German attempt to bleed France white by forcing them into a war of attrition. French and German forces exchanged brutal artillery barrages, gas attacks, and relentless infantry charges in a hellish landscape of mud and trenches. The defense of Verdun became a symbol of French resilience, with soldiers enduring unimaginable hardships. By the battle's end, over 700,000 men were killed, wounded, or missing, with no decisive strategic gain for either side. 3. The Battle of the Somme, 1916. The deadliest day in British military history fought alongside Verdun. The Battle of the Somme was an Allied attempt to relieve pressure on the French forces by launching a massive offensive against German lines. The first day of the battle was catastrophic for the British Army, with over 57,000 casualties, the worst single-day loss in British history. The battle introduced new technologies, including the first ever use of tanks, but the grinding trench warfare and relentless artillery bombardments led to a horrific loss of life. By the end of the 5-month campaign, over 1 million soldiers had been killed or wounded, with only minimal territorial gains achieved. 4. The Battle of Okinawa, 1945. The bloodiest battle of the Pacific War. The Battle of Okinawa was the largest and bloodiest battle of the Pacific War, lasting nearly 3 months. American forces, seeking to secure a foothold near Japan, faced fierce resistance from deeply entrenched Japanese defenders. Kamikaze attacks, cave-based guerrilla warfare, and relentless counterattacks made the battle a grueling test of endurance. The brutal fighting resulted in over 200,000 deaths, including tens of thousands of civilians caught in the crossfire. Okinawa's devastation convinced U.S. leaders that an invasion of mainland Japan would be too costly, ultimately influencing the decision to use atomic bombs to force Japan's surrender. 5. The Battle of Moscow, 1941 to 1942. Hitler's first major defeat. Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union, known as Operation Barbarossa, seemed unstoppable, until it reached Moscow. The German army, pushing deep into Soviet territory, underestimated the resilience of the Red Army and the brutal Russian winter. As temperatures plummeted and supply lines stretched thin, Soviet forces launched a counteroffensive that pushed the Germans back. The battle saw some of the most intense fighting of the war, with over 1 million casualties on both sides. The failure to capture Moscow marked a significant turning point, proving that Nazi Germany could be defeated and setting the stage for future Soviet victories. 6. The Battle of Leipzig, 1813. The largest battle of the Napoleonic Wars, known as the Battle of Nations, Leipzig was the largest battle fought in Europe before World War I, involving over 600,000 soldiers. Napoleon, facing a coalition of Russian, Austrian, Prussian, and Swedish forces, was vastly outnumbered. After days of fierce fighting, his army was forced into a chaotic retreat across the Elster River. Thousands drowned when the only bridge was destroyed too early, sealing Napoleon's defeat. The battle resulted in over 100,000 casualties and marked the beginning of Napoleon's downfall, as his control over Europe collapsed, leading to his eventual abdication and exile to Elba. 7. The Battle of Gettysburg, 1863, the turning point of the American Civil War. The Battle of Gettysburg was the deadliest battle of the American Civil War and a turning point in favor of the Union. Confederate General Robert E. Lee launched an invasion into the North, hoping to force a decisive victory. Over 3 days of intense combat, both sides suffered heavy losses, but the Confederate forces were ultimately forced to retreat. The failed assault known as Pickett's Charge sealed their defeat, resulting in nearly 50,000 casualties overall. Gettysburg not only stopped Lee's invasion but also gave the Union a crucial psychological and strategic advantage in the war. 8. The Battle of Cannae, 216 BC, Hannibal's greatest victory. The Battle of Cannae remains one of the most brilliant tactical victories in military history. Hannibal of Carthage, vastly outnumbered by the Roman legions, used an ingenious double envelopment strategy to encircle and annihilate his enemies. The Roman army, confident in its numerical superiority, charged straight into a carefully planned trap. Within hours, nearly 70,000 Roman soldiers were slaughtered, making it one of the bloodiest single-day battles in history. Despite this monumental victory, Carthage failed to capitalize on its advantage, and Rome ultimately won the war, leading to Carthage's destruction in later conflicts. 9. The Battle of Kursk, 1943, the largest tank battle in history. The Battle of Kursk was the last major German offensive on the Eastern Front and became the largest tank battle in history. Hitler, desperate to regain the initiative, launched a massive attack against Soviet defenses. However, the Soviets, anticipating the assault, had heavily fortified their positions with trenches, mines, and artillery. When the German offensive stalled, the Red Army launched a massive counterattack, crushing the German forces. With over 3,000 tanks involved and nearly 2 million troops engaged, Kursk ended in a decisive Soviet victory, permanently putting Germany on the defensive for the rest of the war. 10. The Battle of Gallipoli, 1915–1916, a costly failure for the Allies. The Gallipoli campaign was an ambitious attempt by the Allies to open a new front against the Ottoman Empire by securing the Dardanelles Strait. British, Australian, and New Zealand troops launched amphibious assaults against heavily fortified Ottoman positions. However, poor planning, underestimation of the defenders, and logistical failures led to a disastrous campaign. Trench warfare, disease, and brutal conditions resulted in over 500,000 casualties. The battle became a defining moment for the Anzac nations and cemented Mustafa Kemal Ataturk's reputation as a brilliant leader, eventually leading to the foundation of modern Turkey. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Also, subscribe to our channel before you go. Thank you for watching.